on docket, please.
Yep.
I'll go send it to him. And everybody else.
So did you see it?
No. Oh, I forgot to send it to you. I gotta send it to you. I'll forward it.
I want this over and done with, okay? I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up. I'm carrying this pen, I don't care. I don't care, okay? Do you hear me?
Yep.
I almost got killed.
I just happened to look down there. Wow. Yeah, nothing around here is cords, except for the photos.
Hey, Glo, just a heads up before you're walking in front of it. It's-
I know,
they have
I'm
it up
just
in front of us
about-
right now. It's in front.
Salt red.
You can't walk in front of it. Cassie's just tall.
Right now, it's just showing this, so. Yeah, right there.
stop.
There you go.
Hey, here we are.
Hey, Mike.
Great to see some wires right in the middle of the camera there. It's great. Okay, so hi everybody, and sorry for the challenges we've had, but we are now live, and technology being what it is, we're in two remote areas, or two different areas, Orlando and Calgary, Alberta. And so what we're going to do here, we're going to go over a little bit of Alberta One Call history. I promise not to keep you longer than 4 hours. And no, we're going to be here maybe an hour if that. And we're going to talk about Alberta One Call's history, our organizational structure, our strategic direction, and where we've been in terms of technology, where we are, where we're going. Talk about Western Canada and what's happening there, our business rule alignment project. And finally, legislation in Canada, where that's going. So just briefly on Alberta One Call's history, I'm going to tell you a story about how things evolved in Canada from a damage prevention perspective. Now, Alberta is the economic engine of Canada, and it has been for many years. When oil was discovered in Leduc, Alberta, many years ago, it really began Alberta One Call's chapter. It's over the many decades since, as the energy capital of one of the capitals of North America, let alone Canada. And with that discovery brought a lot of new industry and ingenuity and a lot of wealth. And that wealth has allowed the industry to expand and has attracted people, not only from all over Canada, but all over the world, to come to Alberta and make it what it is today. And you move forward in time, and we put a lot of pipe in the ground in that time, a lot of telecommunication systems, a lot of support network for all that population that existed and the population that came. And in a very short amount of time, Alberta went from being a small city, not even a real city, it was just more of a big village, to a major city in North America, let alone Canada. In 1978, things changed. 1978, there's a gentleman by the name of Peter Clark, and he was about a 19 or 20-year-old young man at the time, and true to what was happening in Alberta, there was this major boom going on, and there was construction and new people moving to Alberta and homes being constructed as a glass delivery driver, so delivering panes of glass for new construction of homes. And, he was making some money, so he was pretty happy. And it was a March morning, and it was very close to this time of year in Alberta. And if you were on online a bit earlier, you saw there's some snow on the ground in Calgary. And we had a few more inches of snow just recently. But that particular morning, near Edmonton, is a town of Millwoods. And that is important, because I'm going to touch on it later on. The town of Millwoods is near Edmonton, and this gentleman, Peter Clark, is driving down the road, a delivery truck, and he sees this mist coming over the road, which isn't uncommon. It could be snow just being pushed by the wind, and he drives through it. Now, it wasn't a mist, and it wasn't snow, it was propane. He went through this propane cloud, which is heavier than air. It ignited, engulfed his vehicle, and brought serious injury to him. And to this day, he is very disfigured from what happened. And he is, apparently I'm getting a note here. He is somewhat of a reluctant hero for damage prevention. But what happened after that is propane follows the path of least resistance. It goes into ditches, into sewers, into basements. And it did that day. And when there was ignition, sewer lids were blowing off the streets. And it resulted in the evacuation of 18,000 people in Millwoods. At the time, it was the largest evacuation in peacetime history in Canada. And in March, in Edmonton area, it was very cold. 18,000 people left their homes that day. What had happened was sometime before that, whether it was a week, a month, a year, nobody knows, an excavator had been digging, and he hit a gas line, he hit a pipeline. He didn't break it, but he damaged it. He knew what he had done. He repaired it as best he thought he should, covered it up, and left. Never told a soul. Now, a pipeline is almost like you get high pressure, low pressure, high pressure, low pressure. And eventually that steel, where there's an anomaly, will break. If I take a coat hanger and I bend it, and I bend it, and I bend it, it will break. Same thing. And that's exactly what happened. Pipeline had high pressure, low pressure, and eventually that anomaly that was introduced by his heavy equipment resulted in a break. The pipeline leaked, found its way out of the trench, and across the road where it was encountered by Peter Clark. Now, that was tragic for him, but it was a moment in time that will never be forgotten in the damage prevention world in Alberta. And it began something that brings us really to today. That event was investigated by the Energy Resources and Conservation Board. And there were a number of recommendations put forward. And as you can imagine, a lot of it was on safety and the safety of the public and ground disturbance and how do we get ahead of this, because it's going to happen again. And one of those recommendations was two formidable ones. The Edmonton Area Pipeline Utility Operators Committee was born. This is and it remains in place today. It's a group, a committee of buried utility owners and operators, excavators, emergency response, government, provincial, federal, that works together to promote awareness of digging safely and also to work with their members if there is to respond to it immediately. The Edmonton area is, if you've ever been there, if you've never been there, it is pipeline capital. We have an area we call Pipeline Alley, where all of the pipelines that bring hydrocarbons out of Edmonton literally go across the country and into the United States. There's a lot of product that goes through Edmonton. And so that was one of the recommendations. Another recommendation was, how do we get ahead of this provincially? Well, around the same time, after this report came out, there was a group in Calgary, and actually one gentleman from the city of Calgary, who had suggested, we need to have a call center that takes care of locate requests for Calgary. And as I started talking to the power company and electric and natural gas distribution, so why stop there? Why not just do this for the province? And then they established Alberta One Call. It was the first provincial one call system in Canada, going back in the early 1980s. We took our first call, I believe it was 1984, October 1984. And here we are, 33 years later. And we're still going strong. We began that Alberta One Call with 13 members, I believe it was. And those were the founding members of Alberta One Call. And that's all we would notify when we would receive a locate request for those members. And we had a mandate to increase our membership, increase registration. And while that was going on, there was also other things in the background. There was push for legislation that takes a very long time. And in 2005, I believe it was, the Alberta Energy Regulator included legislation within their regulations that stated any pipeline company under their jurisdiction, and there are over 900 pipeline companies under their jurisdiction in Alberta alone, that they must register with Alberta One Call. Now, the vast majority of those pipeline companies have, but they're not all massive pipeline companies. You have what we would call some sausage links, which might be a kilometer or a couple of hundred yards, that are transporting hydrocarbons between one area and another and a plant. But the fact of the matter is, our registrants grew, and now we have just shy of 900 members who are registered with Alberta One Call. And that is without, I'll call it blanket legislation, governing or requiring all bird utility owners in the province of Alberta to register with Alberta One Call. Today we receive and process roughly 500,000 locate requests per year. And our notification ratio between locate requests and notifications is just over 4.1 or 4.2. So we do roughly 2 million notifications per year. And we do that in an environment that is seasonal. You know, we have the baseball season and football season. Well, in Alberta, we have the digging season. And we compress a year's worth of excavation, ground disturbance work, into perhaps 7 months. It's very quiet between November and the end of April. Our digging season really begins in earnest in May, and all of a sudden it spikes. And Contact Center Manager Amanda Haley will talk to you about that later on. So that is really the history that brought us to where we are now. Now, our organizational structure, I'm president of Alberta One Call. I began there in 2011. I'm just coming up on my sixth complete year, I think it is. And I report to the board of directors. There are 14 of them. And then my staff, my colleagues, we have an operations director, Cher Kirk, and then we have a contact center manager, Amanda Haley, our 14 leaders who report to Amanda, member services department, and our controller, Gary Laycraft, who keeps us all honest. And we are quite a flat organization. We work hard to maintain an environment, a culture that is really devoid of any hierarchy. Everybody in their roles at Alberta One Call is very good at what they do. I'm really proud to lead them. Not that they require any leadership, but on paper I do. And that has made us very strong, particularly in the last few years. My job has been to, and it will always be, to remove obstacles, to present opportunities for my colleagues to do what they do best. And I really do believe they are some of the best people at what they do. And that really is my job. Somebody is to ask me a technical question, you're not going to get an answer. And not because because I simply can't. That's not my role. And I'm proud to say that because I have people that I work with who are more than capable to do that. And so where are we going with this? You know, we have really great staff. We have a necessary service, obviously, in Alberta. We're designed that way. We don't need the competition. We're recognized. We have a very strong advertising and promotions campaign. And in Alberta, given the economy, given what we do in Alberta, what our ability is to move forward is based on energy. It always will be. We'll try and diversify, but that's what it is. We are absolutely necessary, but people grow up somewhat knowing about Alberta One Call, I have to admit. And that's a good thing. But our strategic direction is shifting a little. And not because the world is changing, but we've changed. As time goes on, and I'm speaking to people in the room that get this already, we have to shift, and we have to adjust to what the world expects. If we were to continue, our belief in Alberta and in Canada is that if we continue to refer to us as a call center or a contact center, that we aren't going to promote the new technologies, the emergent technologies that are there, the existing technologies that are there. You know, it wasn't that long ago that if we were coming to a conference like the CCGA conference here in Orlando, that we'd be calling the hotel to make a reservation. We'd be calling the airline to make a reservation. Nobody does that anymore. And we haven't for a very long time. And there's a reason for that. It's convenient not to. And we have the means to do so on our mobile device, on the web. That just makes sense. Yet, if we speak to the digging community a couple of years ago, and when we did this in Alberta, it's okay, we're rebranding. We're going to be Alberta One Call because that's our name, our corporation name. We're incorporated under that name. But we're going to sort of push that down a little bit. We want to be known as Click Before You Dig. It sounds so simple. But that was a paradigm shift for a number of our board members. And yet, it didn't take long for our members and those who use our services to get it. When we introduced Click Before You Dig in Alberta, we were at roughly 27 to 30% locate requests that originated on the web. We had been taking locate requests on the web for 17 years before we really told people that we were. And then all of a sudden, we said, we want you to click before you dig. And we had our phone number on our website, but it wasn't that obvious. You had to look for it. And those who knew our phone number had it programmed in their phone anyway. So they were going to continue to call until they realized there was a better way. We went from that 27-30% range in 12 weeks to over 60-65% on the web, just by simply telling people they could. And now here we are a couple of years later, and we push Click Before You Dig, we push Tap Before You Dig with our mobile application. And we look at our locate requests, where they originate, through our homeowners, members, and our digging community, the contractors. Homeowners are anywhere between 30 and 50%, depending on the day, but they dig once every 10 years, once in a lifetime perhaps. Contractors, they're 75 to 85% on the web, and our members 90% plus. That changed things. It reduced our variable costs, and we're able to take that money, that savings, and use it towards education, advocacy, and awareness. To do what Alberta One Call really is designed to do, promote the safety of all Albertans, that we need to do this. If you're just putting up a fence, or if you're building an overpass, it really doesn't matter. We don't care what it is. We want you to be safe. So that helped us do that. Now we go ahead a few more years, and we want to keep people off the phone. And to do that, we had to introduce chat and support lines that if a person had to call in, that they weren't going into the queue of people who were waiting to submit a locate request over the phone, but they had options just for support. They could provide their ticket number, and whatever the case may be, they were helped by support personnel that are destined to do that. And we had our chat function that was introduced a short time ago. And that function allowed people to stay on the web if they got into a problem when they were putting in their locate request, to chat with one of our agents. And our agents can handle up to 5 chats at once. Now what that did, in a sense, it grew our contact center again to a large number of people that really are supporting that online process. They're not taking locate requests. So in a sense, it's a service that is really not revenue generating, but revenue supporting, but absolutely necessary. So the strategic direction now is becoming, yes, we process locate requests, and we always will, but now we're becoming a damage prevention information hub. And that's where we see this going forward. It's not just to provide services that support our process, but it could be, and perhaps it should be, that we will be able to provide services that promote damage prevention as a whole. And the same thing that our members do. I mentioned earlier that our advertising and promotions campaign is very strong. And there's a lot of value in us doing that rather than our members for consistency reasons. Our radio advertising, our television advertising, online advertising is very high. We don't do billboards anymore. We don't promote call. We do promote our mobile application, and we do promote our online services. But beyond that, there is a lot more we can do from a strategic direction. I talked to you a little bit about what's happening in Western Canada. Shortly after I began with Alberta One Call, and I'll blame my naivety on this, I was part of the Common Ground Alliance, the CCGA in Canada. And Manitoba, the province of Manitoba, which is right in the middle of Canada, didn't have a contact center, didn't have a one-call system. And it really needed that. Obviously, it needs that. But they were at a bit of a stalemate in terms of how they could bring one in. So at the time, I spoke with one of my colleagues, my CCGA colleagues, and said, well, why isn't Alberta One Call? Just provide that service. Why not? And he said, well, that's great. Why don't you talk to your board about it? So I did. And initially, some of my board members said, well, Mike, we're Alberta One Call. I said, yes, that's right. But our role is safety, public safety. It really is kind of borderless. And as some of my board members will tell you, they've given me a lot of rope over the years, and perhaps enough to hang myself sometimes, but they trusted me and they let me move forward with it. I'm grateful for that. And so are the many Albertans and Manitobans that have allowed me to extend ourselves. And so we provided the option to Manitoba that we can operate this for you. And almost 4 years ago, we began Click Before You Dig, MB.com, Manitoba. And we began as a click service. And very shortly, we moved very far ahead, almost in parallel with Alberta in terms of our percentages from calls to click. Now, over time, perhaps we generated some more attention, and British Columbia One Call about almost a year ago, they released a request for proposal. And as I understand it, there were 8 applicants that provided their proposals. And it ended up being between 2 of us, ourselves and Pelican. And really, my view at the time was, I remember speaking with some folks in BC, I said, you can't lose. It doesn't matter who you go with. You're going to have a good service. There's nothing wrong here. There's really no competition. We're working for the same reasons. So that was the next small chapter in Alberta One Call is when we were selected to provide services for British Columbia. I remember speaking with my colleagues and saying, the hunt is fun. It's normal. We get energized. We have fun with this. It's an opportunity to show what we're made of and what we can do. But just remember, we might get it. And if we do, then what? So there was that aspect of it as well. And then when we did receive the role, I guess when we received I'm trying to say that, we were selected, if we were, as you were. That was, there's a lot of work began, and we had to do the cutover. Now we do provide services for British Columbia as well. And about this time last year, March, April, we also started providing services for Saskatchewan after hours. So there started to be an alignment here of Western Canada. And once again, my board has been very trusting that we're going to be doing the right thing, that we are moving ahead in the right direction while maintaining everything we've always done before. So here we are. There's a risk, though, because our contact center receives locate requests for Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan after hours. And if there's any overflow from BC as well, we maintain the BC One Call operations and building it in British Columbia. And that risk, however, is there are different business rules in every province. And what we need to do is interesting, if you go back to the beginning of the One Call centers, it was intentionally siloed. We're going to have BC One Call, Alberta One Call, Saskatchewan Call, because we were a call center. We needed to have people taking calls, and it was more perhaps just the way we were built, that we had to have that in one place. But now that we're going, essentially, you can do this from anywhere, and any 24/7, you really can have that contact center anywhere. So the risk is being managed now through a business rules alignment project. And my colleague, Cher Kirk, the Director of Operations, this has become her project. Cher Kirk is, in terms of her knowledge of the one call world, is phenomenal. And, she's forgotten more than I'll ever know. But her job right now is focused on this business rule alignments project. And it's a rather aggressive timeline. And what we're trying to do, what our goal is, and what we will do actually, is we are going to align all the business rules between British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And the reason for that is it becomes far more simple. Not only for the contact center, and we begin to eliminate those risks, but going forward, if we were to select one software for the 4 provinces, it reduces our costs. And for the software provider, now they have 1 client instead of 4. So there's that aspect of things going on right now. That's where our focus is right now. And that project will end mid-May, and then we'll decide what we do with the information sometime thereafter. Now finally, before I move on to my colleagues in Alberta who are anxiously awaiting, I want to talk a little bit about legislation. Now I mentioned earlier about Alberta has partial legislation. British Columbia has partial legislation. Intra-provincial pipelines, not external, but those that remain within the province, intra-provincial. They are required in Alberta and British Columbia to register with Alberta One Call and BC One Call. That is a standard, as a law. But there is no comprehensive legislation that says if you own bird utilities, you must register Alberta One Call. There's nothing like that. We're trying to go there, but jurisdictional challenges in Canada between federal and provincial is where to start. And where we are starting is with the federal piece. So there are certain underground infrastructure that is governed federally as opposed to provincially. And I'm working with the CCGA and the Senate right now. It's in stage right now. And this is all since late September 2016. The likelihood is that it will be passed by the Senate. That is what we believe will happen. It goes to the House of Commons, where the it's all over again. First, second reading, etc. However, let me go back to Mill Woods for a minute. I'm going to try and tie all this up. And we are hopeful that there will be a minister who stands up in the House of Commons and who supports this bill. We hope so. And there's a minister that is responsible for infrastructure who happens to be from the riding of Millwoods. And we're hoping that the people in Millwoods will remember this incident in 1978, almost 40 years ago. That occurred when you had 18,000 people evacuated. You had somebody that was badly injured. But not only will they remember that, they're going to remember, perhaps even more so, the advancements that have been made in public safety since that day. And those advancements are so positive. They created Alberta One Call. They created a process and a system that receives 500,000 locate requests a year and 2 million notifications a year since then. Since the last 35 years. How many lives have been saved? How many families have been able to move forward because of that? That is such a strong and powerful message. We'll never know how many there were. But given the amount of the proliferation of industry and population and bird utilities that support our electeds, something that would be catastrophic if we hadn't had something like this in place. So that's what we're hoping, that legislation, and we're hoping perhaps that minister will bring this forward. There's no guarantees. But it just seems that sometimes in life, things line up. Maybe just maybe, we are starting to line up there. So I've taken up a lot of your time already, but I do want to transfer this over to my colleagues in Alberta, who have been anxiously awaiting. And I'm not sure exactly who's going to first. I think it is Leanne or perhaps Gloria. So there is an 11-second delay. Let's test that. Over to you in Alberta.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. It's Gloria. And as usual, you're a hard act to follow. I'm Gloria Jackman. I'm Mike Sullivan's assistant. And I'm also your tour guide today. So let's get started. The first place you'll see when you enter Alberta One Call is reception, where I, the gatekeeper, resides. The thing about Alberta One Call offices is they are built in the round. So it doesn't matter how many times you walk around the offices, you're never going to get lost. Believe you me, some people have tried. And on the walls, we have cartoons that were done years ago, and they line the whole office. They used to be used as calendar pictures. So come on down the hallway, and first of all, we'll stop in at the boardroom. A modern facility with a large screen TV that has everything you could ask for. Now, let's go to the inner sanctum. Go into the office of President Michael Sullivan. Where he conducts conference calls with senators, employees, committees, or sometimes you can just drop in and have a chat. As we make our way down the hallway, next to Mike's office is Gary Laycraft. He's the accountant, and this is truly where the buck stops. And Gary's in the office now.
Hello.
Further down, we have a room that not many companies have. It's called the quiet room. It's where a person can go in, relax, take a phone call, put their feet up, even take a nap if they want to. Now the next office is Cher Kirk's office. She's not here today, but somebody is filling in for her. Let's take a look. Hi, Sheldon. Nice guy, quiet, but a little stiff. Now we're going to head down again to the middle of the hallway, where in the middle of our offices is our coffee room, lunch room, break room. This is where we all gather to eat, meet, and greet. Today, it's decorated for St. Paddy's Day. Happy St. Paddy's Day, by the way. It is a full kitchen facility where you can bake cookies, cook an egg, you can even make toast. Everything that you have at home, we have here. As you can see, there are some of the new DPAs enjoying their lunch. Hi, guys. Which brings us out to the contact center. Now this is where the real action takes place. As you can see, we have 5 banks or teams that are headed by a team leader or a senior DPA. They all seem to be quietly taking their phone calls, web requests, or live chat. We also have some work at homes that you can't see right now, of course, but they also have a rotating schedule, let's say, of the pager, which means if there's an emergency after hours, they're there. They're ready to take that ticket. Heading through the contact center, in the corner office is our contact center manager, Amanda Haley's office. You'll meet her later. And here is what we call the coaching room. This is where a team leader can bring in a DPA and have a private discussion, or even have an interview for a new DPA. And behind this closed door are new DPAs that have just finished their training and are taking their test. So good luck. Now, as we head down this hallway, you can see that we're going to be heading back to the front. Told you couldn't get lost. And Hannah McDonald's office. Hannah is the accountant's assistant. Hi, Hannah. Which brings us to the front. The front office here is member services. Now, this is where a team of people look after all of the members of Alberta One Call. And our first presenter is Cassie Zaba, who will introduce you to the team and give her presentation. Hi, Cassie.
Hi, Gloria. Thank you. So I am Cassie Zaba. I am the member liaison, and we are a 3-person team here in the Member Services Department. So we also have Natasha Hallstein over there dressed in green. She is our technical administrator, and green is one of her favorite colors, so she loves today. I think Joe might swing you over there and see how green she is. It's very lovely. And then we also have Chelsea Lateplo. She is the Member Services Assistant. She's been a DPA for 6 years with Alberta One Call and is the newest member of our team. And so here in the Member Services Department, we look after our member companies. So there are various different tasks we do, like updating the database when lines have been sold or purchased. We also update member contact information when addresses or phone numbers have changed. We onboard new member companies. We troubleshoot any technical issues and report those issues. We test new system features and communicate those features to our members. We also represent Alberta One Call at industry events and help advocate for safe digging. So one of the big projects we're doing this year is achieving ISO 9001 certification. So ISO 9001 is the international standard for a quality management system. So we're currently reviewing our procedures and processes to ensure that they align with ISO standards and to make sure that we're delivering the best service possible to all of our stakeholders, whether that be members or excavators or anyone within the digging community. So we will achieve the certification by the end of the year. Right now we're currently going over our procedures to identify any gaps, make sure we're giving the best service, and if there is room for improvement, we'll have the procedures in place to make those improvements. So that's one of the big projects we're doing here this year amongst our other member services tasks, and I look forward to any questions you may have at the end of your tour. Thanks, Gloria.
No, thank you, Cassie. That was very informative. Thank you. So now I mentioned that Amanda Haley is the operations manager. The contact center manager's office, and that you were going to meet her later. Well, later is now. So we're going to head down to her office where she'll give a presentation. And she's been the contact center manager for 2 years, I believe, and in the damage prevention city for 13. She directly 51. So let's head on into her office where she's going to speak about contact center operation, culture, and environment. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Gloria. So hello, welcome to Alberta One Call. So Mike had mentioned a little bit about the seasonality of the contact center and how it can be a challenge. So there's a small window for excavation in Canada. Here, our season typically lasts between March through to October. There are 12 contact center staff out in the BC office that work year-round. And for Alberta and Manitoba, we share 16 staff members over the winter. We bump that up to 44 during the summer months. The volume in BC is consistent. I have to eat the mic. The volume in BC is consistent throughout the year. There's a bit of a bump in the summer months because of the warm weather, though. People can really dig year-round. Other than this year, they've gotten their fair share of snow. So, the volume in Alberta and Manitoba, though, is a little different. We complete approximately 15,000 locate requests each month during the winter months, and then we double that, almost triple it, during the summer months. So 30 to 45,000 locate requests processed per month between April through to September. It's a challenge to excavate when the ground is frozen. So everyone digs all at once. So does anyone in the audience experience similar seasonality issues? I'm going to let that ruminate for a moment. I understand there could be a 10-second lag, and I'm going to enjoy my coffee. It's a medium dark roast double-double. Tim Hortons. Mike, maybe if you want to text me over, any hands in the air dealing with seasonality? No? Alrighty then. So in March 2013, AOC launched its call to action, Click Before You Dig. Within 10 weeks, the contact center experienced a rapid and sustained shift from the phones to the webs. Previously, phones were approximately 65% of the volume that came in, and webs were around 35%. Once we launched, oh, there's Mike. Once we launched, it actually switched. So the webs were 65% at that point, and the phones were 35%. He says, all good. So currently we maintain approximately 80% of the locate requests online. So 80% of the notifications that come through to the contact center are done so through our web portal. So by a show of hands, again, another question, how many people in the audience have used the North American clickbeforeyoudig.com portal? And I'll just let that ruminate there for a second. So the Click Before You Dig portal, for anyone that hasn't used it, is a North America portal that allows excavators to go online, click on their province or their state, and it'll directly link them to that one call center's website so that they can place their locate requests. Any questions? Any people using the clickbeforeyoudig.com portal, Mike? Nothing here yet. So as Mike was mentioning, in order to assist keeping the customers on the website, we use an omni-channel of resources. Our customers can use chat, support emails, Twitter, or even Facebook. And there's always someone available to assist every type of user on every type of medium. Our damage prevention associates are able to learn how to best service these types of customers through our training program. Once an agent is able to maintain a quality scoring of 90% for 12 weeks, they're given the opportunity to engage with customers in a different medium. They're also given the opportunity to work from home. So agents really enjoy the flexibility. And living in a country where the weather doesn't always work in your favor, the opportunity to work from home in your comfy, cozy house every now and then it's a nice change. It's a nice flexibility to have. Employee engagement and corporate culture around damage prevention is something that we truly strive to achieve. We host Lunch and Learns quarterly throughout the year, and we also provide 2 opportunities for our agents to participate and represent the organization on a larger scale. One at the CCGA conference, which is hosted here in Alberta every year, and then one at the CCGA Symposium, which will be hosted in Ottawa and coincides with celebrating Canada's 150th anniversary. The damage prevention associates and team leads are actively involved in spreading the damage prevention message outside of the organization. They volunteer at community events such as Retwee YYC, Calgary Stampeders and Edmonton Eskimos Labor Day Classic football game, Okotoks Dogs, Edmonton Prospects baseball games, and customer training in both person and via WebEx. All right, Glow. So let's meet the people who make the magic. Take it away, Glow.
They've already met me enough magic for one day. Thanks, Amanda. we're going to show you a video that one of our team leaders in BC One Call has submitted for your viewing pleasure. So take it away, Samin.
Team leader here at BC One Call Center. I'm going to take you for a little spin around our workplace. This is our entrance. We have space for about 14 stations. As we look up outside to the hills, which you can't see because it's raining. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Okay. Now are you allowed to be something? It's the afternoon, so 30 minutes have left for the day. And this is our little coaching room. And this is Pavan. Okay, what? Oh, then. Our boardroom. A little kitchenette. And this is this little place where we have our lunch. And then we just go all the way back, circle back to the entrance.
And that's a big thank you to Samin for submitting that video for us. And we're going to head back into the call center and talk to the magic making people. First up is Leanne Williams. She started with Alberta One Call in 2012 as a damage prevention associate and worked as a team leader, learning all she could about the damage prevention process. Today, she'll be demonstrating how to submit a locate using our website. So we'll head on down through the bank here to talk to Leanne, who is dressed up for St. Paddy's Day. Actually, no, this is how she always dresses. This is her usual. There you go, Leanne.
Hello, Mike. Hello, everybody in Florida. Today, as Gloria said, I'm going to take you through how to submit a locate request using our website. The lovely Amanda did tell you guys about clickbeforeyoudig.com, so I highly suggest if you haven't checked it out already, you go ahead and do that because there's this beautiful interactive map. If you click on any of these provinces, any of these states, it will bring up the website to that specific area. As mentioned before, here in Alberta, we do BC One Call. We also do Click Before You Dig Manitoba, but today I'm going to show you how to submit using albertaonecall.com. Here we go. It brings this beautiful pop-up up on your screen. It has some information that is relevant if you want to submit a locate request, as in 2 working days notice that our members require, how long the locates are valid for, and of course our website. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And here is albertaonecall.com. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of information on here. Right now, we're going to submit a locate request. This is the disclaimer page. This goes over basically the legal liability issues surrounding placing a locate request. Our customers do need to click on I have read and accept the above disclaimer before they can go ahead and submit. There we go. Now on this page, it's going to ask for login information. If our customers have not yet created a username and password, they would click on register for an account here. As you can see, I've already done so I'm not going to go through that. But what happens when you do that is it asks for your email address. It then sends a link for you to complete registration, and then you can set your own password. So we'll go ahead and log in with my username and password. Now this is the main page. There's a lot of different information on here. You can change your password. You can, because I have an admin account, I can look at all of our users, but right now we're just going to go ahead and submit a new ticket. And this is the ticket submission page. And I am not Cher Kirk, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to Leanne Williams, if I could spell my own last name. There we go. Now, all of our DPAs are aware that we're going to be putting through this test ticket, so not to worry, this is not a live ticket that we're going to put through. All right, so in this tab here, this is the excavator information. Everything that you see with a red asterisk beside it is a required field. They do have a contractor ID. Most of this information will autofill once they've actually registered for an account with us. As you can see, it happened with me as well. But the required fields being the primary contact name, the primary phone number, the email address, the company name, and who the work is being done for. We then head down to the dig location tab. The dig location tab is obviously where you put in your dig location. So if we were in a rural location, if I were to type in rural, it would bring up another field where I could enter in a quarter section, township, range, and meridian. However, in this case, we're just going to be working in Calgary. And all I have to do really is just enter in a few letters and it pops up with the city of Calgary. The address field, and also I wanted to mention, as you can see beside a lot of these fields, it does have little help boxes with a little question mark here. So it'll give you tips and tricks as to what's required for each field. In the address field, we're just going to put in the house number. In the street field is where we put in the actual street. So we're going to be working at 320 Hawthorne Drive Northwest. Once we plunk that in, as you can see, a Google map automatically finds the location for us, which is great. You also have the option of putting in the nearest intersections. This is really helpful, especially if you're working from an intersection. You could put in intersection 1 would be that specific intersection. Intersection 2 would be the end point from there. If you are putting in an intersection, we do actually require how far in and which direction the work is taking place in meters or feet, any measure of distance that way. We can also accept GPS as where on property information, but I'll get to where on property in a moment here. I'm getting ahead of myself. Here's our Google map. Now, I believe I'm a little bit nearsighted, so it's hard for me to see these numbers. There we go. All right, so I found 320 right here. So what I can do on this particular page is I can actually draw out, there's several different tools. You can pan, obviously, which I just did. You can use color picker, you can label it, you can draw a circle, you can draw a polygon, you can draw just a straight line, you can remove and remove all. What we're going to do in this case is we're going to draw a polygon around our dig area. And I've decided for this purpose we're just going to work in the backyard. So I'm just going to draw my polygon by drawing out all the points there. And there's my lovely map. And then what I want to do is I go down to the bottom right and just click Attach Sketch. And in a moment, you will see just beneath it here, it pops up under the Sketches and Other Attachments field. I'm also going to demonstrate you can attach a file that you've saved onto your computer as well. So if you have any additional dig sites that you want to include, a spreadsheet of additional addresses, if you wanted to include several maps, you can do that as well. So you just click on that, it brings up this pop-up, and choose File, and then I find where my map is, and there it is. I click Open, and then I click Attach, and in a moment, there's both of my attachments. Hooray! Let's move on down to Dig Info. Dig Info is the real meat and potatoes of the ticket. This is where we have any excavation dimensions that we might have. In this case, I'm just working in a residential backyard, so I don't have too much information there. But you can put in the length, direction, and width. So, for example, if I was working on public property, 50 meters north, I can put that in this field here. I can also put in the depth. All of these fields have drop downs as well, so you can change the actual metrics here. So I'm going to say we're gonna dig down 3 feet on this ticket. As I mentioned before, this is just a private residence. So under the property type here, we've got public property, a vacant lot, private residential, and private commercial. We're just gonna check off private residential. Is the site pre-marked? we'll say, sure, it's staked out. Is there restricted access to site, or do I want to meet with a locator? Generally speaking, when we have tickets such as this that are pretty straightforward for residences, they don't usually ask to meet the locators. The planned excavation date, which date am I actually going to do the work? I'll say the 25th of March. And what type of work? Now, this field you can either write free form, or obviously we get some pop-ups here. I'm going to say in this case, I am replacing my fence. But if you actually click on the arrow there, it gives you a whole drop down of all different types of work. And the priority, we just take routine requests over the web. The estimate duration, this field here is more so if we're doing a contractor ticket and the contractor knows it's going to take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, etc. I'm just going to leave that as NA. It's just a simple private residence. It generally takes the locators about no more than half an hour to get those done. The additional info field, this is where you would put any additional info, obviously. I'm going to say rowdy, oh my goodness, I can't type. 2 rowdy schnauzers, usually inside. If outside, homeowner is home. So then we're just giving them a heads up that we have some barky schnauzers on the property. Now the where on property field, that is mandatory, as you can see by the red asterisks here. So I'm going to say we're working in the backyard. The lot, block, and plan information over here. This is for vacant lots, generally speaking. If they were to select vacant lot, we require at least 2 of those 3 fields. But in this case, it's an existing house, so we don't have to worry about that. When I'm all done with everything, usually I would go back up because I like to make sure I'm 100% correct all the time, but not everybody does. And then we go ahead and click save once we're happy with that. But wait, it actually asks you to look it over again. And then we come to this page and we basically are getting an overview of what the ticket information is going to be. And all we need to do at that point, if we have confirmed that everything's correct, is we click submit. And it gives us this page with the excavator information. It gives us a ticket number down here. Now this ticket number is, the ticket is then transmitted to our contact center. It goes in our suspended folder where our DPAs actually go through and they process the web request. So they basically go in and they make sure that everything's correct. I'm not going to go over that. That's actually going to be my colleague Andrea. But this is how you submit a locate request online.
Thank you, Leanne. That was very informative. Now I want to go home and start digging and get on the internet and put in my ticket. It's so easy. No problem at all. Thank you again, Leanne. We're going to head down now to Andrea Whitwell, who started with Alberta One Call in 2011 as a DPA for 5 seasons and then became a team leader in 2016. She's going to go through what a DPA, how a DPA processes a ticket. Take it away.
Hold it. Okay, here we go. Just get the screen situated here so everyone can see what's going on. So when a DPA processes a ticket in our system, they can either do it over the phone or via web. So over the phone, we have an expected call time of 5:15, and we have a web processing time of 2 minutes with an hour turnaround. So we like to try and meet that. Of course, in the summertime, it's a little harder because it's busy. Louder. Okay, so on the screen here, as you can see, Leanne just processed an online request. So we're going to go through the steps that a DPA would take in-house to process this request through our system. So they would find the ticket that came in, they then unsuspend it. When a ticket comes through with an attachment, as Leanne drew the map on the website, it automatically opens to that page. We can click into the map and have a look at what the customer attached. So we're looking at the Google Map images that were provided by the customer. So after we take a look at those, we go into the caller tab and we just check to make sure the customer provided the correct information, a complete phone number, their first and last name, and an email address, as the locators and members respond via email. In some instances, sometimes they just call or they just leave a locate slip on site. Do you want me to hold this? Okay. So once we go through the caller information and make sure it's correct, we then move to the dig location tab to look for the address or intersection that the customer provided. In this instance, the customer provided a civic address, so we would just be looking for the one civic address. We then move on to the dig location tab just to double check, make sure all the information is inputted correctly. So we look at the property type, there is one selected. We look at the work type to make sure it's correct. And then we go through the additional dig information to make sure that the customer, or look at any additional notes the customer added regarding to their dig site. So once we look through here, we then look at our mapping system. We have pretty specific mapping data in Alberta. We have lot data, we have pretty good street data, everything like that. So here you can see we've selected the one lot. We'll just zoom out a little bit. So all these lots here are along the streets. We can even bring up the member data information. Amanda said too. Okay, so we'll close that. Just looking at the lot here, so this is all in the city of Calgary. The maps generally look like this all throughout Alberta, of course, with the exception of the rural area, which is just large parcels of legal land descriptions. So once we accept our map, we look through all the information, make sure it's correct. If it is correct, then we process. The next thing that would happen is the screen would go to a member notification screen of the members that the area would be that we mapped would be notifying. From there, we get a ticket number, and then an email confirmation copy is sent to the member utility companies and the customers, along with the attached map that the DPA drew and the maps that the customer drew on the website as well. There's no one to take a call. So that's it for me.
Well, thank you, Andrea. That, again, I want to go out and start a digging project. The next person we're going to go and talk to is the guy that's handling the camera right now. Contact center without tripping is Joseph Rosenberg, who has been with Alberta One Call for nearly a decade, if not a decade. Over a decade. He's been deeply involved in the damage prevention community for the last 6 years. Joseph has spent 2 years chair of the CCGA damage and has been dubbed even Joe Dirt by the Alberta damage prevention community. Today, Joseph will be speaking about the challenges of a virtual contact center. And there you go, Joe, once you're set up.
So this is a bit difficult as I am expected to control the camera and also do a talk, but that's okay. We can suss through it. All right, so I'm going to be talking to you today about our virtual contact center. Last year, Alberta One Call opted to move forward with a cloud-controlled contact center solution. We use currently a software known as Five9. They are one of the largest groups in the world handling cloud contact center solutions, and, well, it's a wonderful thing to behold. So once an agent decides to log in, because they're on shift or their shift is just beginning, they're taken to a login screen, of course, wherein they can choose which skills they'd like to partake in. Now, these skills are separated by the various queues that Alberta One Call handles. Obviously, all of the different variety of contact centers that we belong to have their own queuing systems. As you can see, there are quite a few of them. Everything is split out between whether people are calling in routine emergencies or just related to support calls for singular requests that already exist. Once an agent logs in, they'll have the ability to put themselves in many different queue types. So they can ready up for calls, or they can put themselves into a not ready code, which allows them to be unavailable, but particularly when they're tasked with other tasks. They're also able to use this as a fully functional phone using a headset system. They can dial out to specific contacts or other agents within the contact center, as well as individual phone numbers, much like they would with a traditional manual handset. They can also see live statistics related to all the various queues that are available to us, or the ones that they've been logged into, and they would be able to put themselves control their availabilities. From a supervisor standpoint, the system is even more robust, as we can view a live queue pretty much at any given time. We can see a very precise overview of the agents available, their current statistics, how long they've been doing particular tasks, as well as the current statistics for each of the individual queues that we run. Beyond that, this is all funneled through a very complex IVR tree that tends to get a little bit more and more complex, but basically sustains our system as it stands on the day-to-day. It's fairly simple, and there's really not much more to it than this. The technology move forward to cloud-based contact centers is an inevitable one. We're seeing more adoption for this across the board worldwide as time goes on, and allows us to have our remote users functioning without issue pretty much all day, every day, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365. It also allows us to have a very strong contingency plan. Portions of this IVR setup allow us to route calls to multiple different devices if agents become unavailable due to snowstorms or power outages or internet outages in those cases. We always have a backup or a backup to the backup in some cases. And we have people available at a moment's notice to be able to step in and take over when needed. All right, and that's it. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Joe. The multi-talented Joe Dirt, everyone. Now we're going to head down to one of our senior DPAs, and that would be Matthew Wood. Now, Matthew, he's been with Alberta One Call for 3 seasons, and he's going into his 4th season. He's going to go over Zendesk and how Alberta One Call utilizes its features such as support, chat, and help center. Hey, Matt.
Good afternoon. Perfect. So this is the interface for Zendesk. Zendesk supports puts all of our customer information in one place where we can access all relevant data and activity from a single interface. It makes it easier for our teams to track customer conversations and pick up where they left off, and each member will know exactly what is going on. Perfect. So support allows tickets to be raised via the usual array of sources: email, web, telephone, chat, social media networking sites such as Twitter and Facebook. They all come through on the same interface. I will go over the different utilities that we use for support. So the first one we have is that this is the basic interface, and this is where all the tickets come through and all the agents are able to process them. It gives us the option to use views, so we can actually sort the different tickets so that different agents can be assigned with different skill sets so that they can process the requests. With Zendesk, it actually will keep track of all of the customer lists of all of the customers that have contacted us or have used Zendesk for support purposes. The next is Zendesk actually gives us excellent reporting for all of our all of the emails that come in through Zendesk. This includes how many agents, which agents have touched the tickets, have opened the tickets just to view, which tickets have been, how many tickets have been solved, and the dates. And you can see obviously that the weekends it's a little bit quieter and it's busier on the Mondays, and it slowly goes down as the week goes. And then it has a variety of just different graphs, and we're able to edit this to the best of our ability. This is what we just presently use on the interface. And then we do have the settings, and the settings are actually, we use them for, we're able to set the macros and the automations and the triggers so that our ultimate goal is so that everything will be more automated, so that tickets will come through and that they could be essentially auto-processed, or they'll be sent right and assigned to the proper person. Perfect. And then the next thing we will go over is actually chat. So Alberta One Call has used chat for just over, I think, just over a year and a half. We've seen excellent results with it. It's within Zendesk, but it actually opens to a new menu, so it gives the agents so they're able to cross-reference with Zendesk. Chat creates a personal connection with the customers looking for support. It's fast and effective way to offer help without interrupting the browsing flow of them submitting a ticket. So this is the interface when they first log into chat. It allows I apologize. This is the interface when they first log into chat. As you can see, it's a basic interface, and it tells you where we stand and the tickets that are coming through. Just to dive in a little bit more, it'll actually show you the visitors. These are visitors that are actively on the website, on idle, so somebody might have the website open and they are still working on it. It'll actually tell you where they have come from. It'll tell you the operating system that they're using, the time they've spent on the site, the amount of times that they've actually been on the site, and the number if they've had previous chats for support, and the location where they're actually logging on from. This is ideal because when we don't use chat to create new tickets, we use it for actually support purposes. So if someone needs assistance using the website, we use the chat to walk them through that. And so by having the operating system and where they are, we're able to help the customer with more information. This also has the history of all of the chats, has excellent analytics that we're able to track exactly where the amount of chats that are coming through. Then just to go back to the main page, it'll actually break down by hourly of the chats, the dailies, as previously, as you can see, the weekends, because we were not open to take chats, so that obviously it goes down, weekly. And then it can actually see monthly, and I don't know if they're able to zoom in on this, but actually our busier time is May, and you can see that it goes down slowly but surely till it gets to the winter months when the ground is frozen up here in Canada. Perfect. Okay, so just to go back to just the home page, the next thing we're going to talk about is something that we have just introduced, and we're actually pretty proud of it, and it is going to be something that's going to be ongoing. It's our help center. So this is a internal and external help center. The first help center that we're going to talk about is the DPA knowledge base, and this is internally for anyone at Alberta One Call to use. So I'll just click the knowledge base, and as you can see, we have for the different contact centers and the general documents, we have them all sorted so that it makes the agents and employees, it's easier to find the certain documents. Perfect. So the first one I'll just show you as an example. This is just to go back, as Joe just talked about, the 5.9 login instructions. So we're able to put this on. So if an agent has an issue and they want to figure out how to log into the 5.9, they can click here, and the instructions are all here for them in one spot, rather than emailing support or technical support or a team leader. It just gives them the option to individually find it by themselves. So we're able to put all of the instructions in here as well. Perfect. And just back to the knowledge base. And the second thing I wanted to show you was the support center. So this is an ongoing process with Alberta One Call, and we're really working on it right now. It is the support center, and this is going to be externally for the customers to be able to log in and find assistance for their questions that they might have, or concerns, or instructions on how to do certain aspects. So the first one I'll show you is, just as an example, is the color code explanation in Alberta One Call. So we'll log into here, and it'll show the different paint marks of what is commonly used. So where this is going to become ideal is that it's going to be the customer is able to add comments and concerns to any of the questions, or if they feel like something should be added. We're hopefully aiming to have this as more of a community rather than just putting in the documents. Perfect. So that's exactly how Alberta One Call is using Zendesk for right now.
Well, thank you, Matt. That is even more knowledge even for someone like me who works for Alberta One Call. So now we're going to head down here to the last presenter, but not the least presenter, and that would be Mr. Craig Tafts, who has a lovely corner here in the contact center. And he's been with us for 7 years, and he is the social media and DigSafe Ambassador Coordinator. And today he'll be discussing the Alberta One Calls Ambassador Program. Hey, Craig.
Excellent.
There
Thank
you
you
go.
so
You're
much, Chloe. I really
welcome.
appreciate it. Joe, could we would make sure we're going to get the truck in the frame. Just let me know where you want me to stand. Our lovely truck is donated to us by TransCanada, and this is our second season for the ambassadors. They traveled over 3,000 kilometers, made 2,000 connections, and because of the ambassadors, we are now invited to contractor days at Home Depot and Lowe's. They've been to trade shows and community events right across Alberta. They made a connection with CIR Realty, which is a realty office which operates central and southern Alberta. They put the Alberta One Call link all over their Best My Nest website. Just look under our partners and you'll find the Alberta One Call logo and link all over that. Wouldn't have happened without the ambassador program. What was I going to talk about? Oh yes, it's the face-to-face contact, basically. Getting that DigSafe message out there. The ambassadors being on the road, visiting contractors, visiting dig sites, and also we have Twitter and Facebook, so DigSafe YYC and DigSafe YEG. So if you want to follow us on those platforms, and we're really looking forward to the 2017 DigSafe. What? Oh, DigSafe. Sorry. Point up. What? Where am I looking? We're really looking forward to the 2017 DigSafe season. So I guess we're going to Q&A after this.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Chloe.
Thank you, Craig. So that's a lot of information, but boy, oh boy, thank you so much, all of you, for giving us that information. And we're going to head up now to the Q&A. But here's an interesting fact. All of the people that you met today that gave you all of this information, except Mike Sullivan, started out with Alberta One Call as Damage Prevention Associates. And look where they are now. When Mike came along, he saw something in each and every one of us that he wanted to instill into Alberta One Call and its culture. So I think he's done a pretty great job. I'm not looking for a raise, Mike, but you know, if you're thinking about it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the tour. Have a question and answer period in our boardroom. So come on. And here's everybody gathered for you to ask the questions.
I'm just in the process of FaceTiming Mike right now. Give me 1 moment.
Pass the microphone
Hello.
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 Hi, Mike. How's it going?
I'm good.
Good. You know what? I'm going to go to the camera.
5 minutes.
That's right. All right. So there's Mike. Hello, Mike. No.
Too low.
Too low?
There you go. He's in front of
There
everybody
we go.
else.
Hi, Mike.
So we need to turn your camera around, your lens around.
Okay.
That's right, I think.
No, I can see you in the video. We're doing this for YouTube.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're at the end. And we do have a couple of questions, I know. Think. Yep, you do. I'll repeat the question in case I can't hear you.
Right. So the question is just about how turning on online chat, how that had an impact on the business. Did it reduce incoming phone calls, or it's really interesting.
Yeah, the question is, with the online, did it reduce to ask for assistance? And they were getting routed through, and now it keeps those people online. But is there any data we have available, just anecdotally, Amanda or anybody else that can provide further?
So it might also did it
Yeah.
you've got certain staff members answering phone calls, did they go down and therefore
Oh, yeah.
the same by going up? You know, at the
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily, because one agent can handle up to 5 chats at once. Yeah.
Joe would like to add some information in regards to that. Joe,
Of course.
come on up. Well, no, the camera's kind of.
We're looking at a wall right now.
Are we? No. Hi. Okay.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, once we online chat, we actually saw the incoming calls to our support line drop by somewhere around 20%. The exact numbers escape me at the moment. I'd have to go back and look at my reports. Once we introduced them in BC, actually, we saw that drop by about 25% as well. No, it's probably a little too close to the thing. There's a wall and all that sort of stuff. I said at BC, when we introduced it in BC, that was more recently. We obviously had less hard data prior to that, but we saw it drop by about 25% at that point.
Yeah, of course.
So the online chat feature, so it's usually just the actual staff on site.
Yes.
During business hours.
Yes.
It's not 24/7 type sort of feature.
No, and we don't run the contact center 24/7. Not yet. We do respond to emergencies 24/7, obviously. But as you saw when Matt was going through the data for online chats, it really escalates. Of course, in the weekend, there's basically nothing. We do receive online locate requests 24/7, but we may not. We do process some, and we do have trying to keep the volume as low as possible for Monday morning. But by and large, it's locate requests are processed during normal business hours, and that's when chat is turned on again, or becomes a factor.
And I imagine that you get user feedback sort of on an ongoing basis.
Oh yeah, actually,
So now that's been in place for a year. Predominantly positive.
very positive. Our Amanda, just to confirm, I believe our key performance indicator for online chat is 95%.
That's correct. Yeah.
So that's what we've established our KPIs at, and we do receive feedback. We produced our annual report, and the feedback we've had has been tremendous. It's been very positive. Our KPIs are always 95% and higher. It's our busiest month. To key performance indicator.
What's it? Measuring what? The
Satisfaction.
satisfaction level.
Satisfaction, yeah. So have we responded in time? Are we providing with the information they need? Did they get the ticket done as they expected? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just another question on the chat, probably extending from that. I'm assuming you keep transcripts of the chat.
Amanda, do we keep?
Yeah, we keep all records.
Yep.
And is that linked automatically into the ticket that's created from the chat?
Is that linked automatically?
Associated to it, it pops a ticket open in Zendesk, and it actually responds back to the customer in an email.
Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, so not the notification that goes.
It does attach itself to the notification, the ticket, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Scott Land is standing up. Looks very informative.
Really important question. I'm wondering, in the actual tour when you're there, as they were walking around, you can see the walls are lined with those things. Those are all cartoons, basically, went from calendars over the years.
Yeah.
My question was, how many are there? This guy must have done this for 100 years.
We had calendars for Alberta One called that were 2012, and the reason was there is a cost associated with that. There was, and we had a number left over from previous years, but everybody carries their cell phone now, and you can see a clip pretty, and their calendar is there. So it was in terms of what to target our social media pages from time to time. We'll be pushing. They do push those out, and just to show that is a part of our history, and it was unique to Alberta.
An interesting Side note, if any of you have seen the 10 dangers for a locator poster that we have. So that was the same. After we saw that, we contacted him and he actually created an artwork for the poster.
Yep.
He's really good and he understands the industry.
Very much so. Yep.
The chat and also the virtual call center, they've all happened in the last number of years, so quite close together. Was actually wondering, in terms of the process going through and implementing those, were they done together or separately? If there are any particular challenges or learnings that you might have from it?
I think the challenges is staff. I think is what it comes down to. The question has been, have we had any challenges in out some of our features, whether that's chat or anything else that we've done, Amanda? And I'm not trying to be funny here, but I don't do what the contact center does every day, and I don't do what Amanda does every day or anybody else does every day. But I get it. But I don't. I really don't, and it's not because I don't want to know. Sometimes it's best that I don't know, because if I don't know, then if we have an idea of a change to implement, or a change is absolutely necessary, then me saying I think we need to do this, it creates this buzz of here we go. Mike Sullivan's. I'm sort of like the window to the common person out there that has an expectation of what it should. If I had too much detail in my head, I wouldn't articulate half the things I think we should do, because I know that this is going to be a challenge. So in that sense, and not trying to be funny, but there are many times where my colleagues push back and say, and these are words that I've heard literally, can we just not do anything different this year? Can we just have a year where everything stays the same? And the answer is no. No, we can't. And the reason is there is a public expectation that we're going to be accessible any way they want. And if we are not accessible that way, we're probably not doing our job. And as I mentioned earlier on about the hotels and planes, making reservations, you got to move. You got to move with the times. You have to be able to see around corners and see what's coming that maybe nobody else can see. And if you're not doing that, you're not meeting that demand. If you're not meeting that demand, you might be part of the problem.
What's your strategy around the contact center of the future? Like we envision for what that actually means?
Well, I think in terms of a vision of a contact center, this for the future is, in a sense, the locate request processing either becomes more simplified or absolutely eliminated. And Alberta One Call and other contact centers like us become more of that information hub. There's that likelihood that we will go there at some point. I believe that we need to perhaps push that forward a little bit. The legislation that we're drafting in Canada for the Bill F-229, there's a provision in there that states that a utility owner doesn't have to provide paint on the ground or locate marking. That provides, here is our utility in relation to your excavation. Good luck. No, I'm kidding, but really that's what it says. The integrity of that process right now today, it's not where it needs to be. But if we don't start to create that language and that thought process to bring the integrity of that process, markings on the ground forever. And that is the most difficult pinch point in the entire damage prevention process. We have to add that integrity. Now, are we ever going to stop putting paint on the ground? No, probably not. But as time goes on, the data of the underground infrastructure increases, then there's no reason why we can't transfer that to the digger.
The people in your centre moving towards ambassadors, the trainers, the individual people, maybe not call some people.
contact center become more the ambassadors and the assistant, the excavating community, the digging, particularly the transmission pipeline companies. They have that ambassadorship role, in a sense, worked into their functions, their operations. But it's only a piece of the role. You know, they are a land agent, they are doing locating, they are meeting with the public, they're doing a lot of things. Whereas our ambassadors, there's only 2 of them right now, their primary function is educate, and that's really all it needs to be and all it ever should be. We have a robust education, social media, online, but you one call. And for many, many years, that role was really centered on my role, and it shouldn't be. I can speak to it, and I can be that person, but there's no reason why we all can't be that person. And that's really where I think we need to go forward, is providing that center that has qualified people to speak to what we do every day. Yep.
Just curious, with back with the member liaisons, Cassie, I think it was.
Yes.
What software are they using to help them manage their members there? Is that the same that they're using Zendesk that we saw with the customers, or is it something standalone?
I think they have a chalkboard. Now the question is, what software is Member Services using? And perhaps we go over to Cassie to answer this question of what do we use to help manage our Member Services team?
Come on up, Cass.
I think it stretches.
She's up.
She's up. Here she comes.
So we're using the TELDIG software as well as Map Info software to manage their database and their contact information.
Closer to the phone.
Sorry, Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So we use the TELDIG software to manage the member contact information, and we use Map Info software for the database.
History of the conversation with the customer. Does Cassian have the same sort of facility in terms of managing relationship with their members?
Cassie, the question is, we use Zendesk to manage the history of the contact with our members for a locate request, perhaps. What are we using to track the history of our correspondence with our members in relation to anything Member Services?
That's a very good question. We are also using the Zendesk software for that.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Cassie while we have her here? How much do you like your job, Cassie? Just tell me. Doing a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions as well? I got a question actually for Andrea that
All right, Andrea.
came up. It's in relation to the attachments. Now, one of the things we've been tracking is the percentages of locate requests that have an attachment. The reason why we went to the web wasn't to make it, although it was a great benefit, it wasn't to make it reduce our numbers, reduce our costs. It was the fact that if you're requesting a locate over the phone, you're really limited in terms of how you describe the location. And, there's that verbal messaging and hoping that the agent on the other side gets it, right? And over the phone, you can't push through an attachment. You can't provide a photograph. And that's where we needed to go. So we had to do it in a different step process. Let's go to the web, let's promote Click Before You Dig, and now let's start to promote attachments and push that along to the point where we need to make it mandatory to include an attachment. And that's not the polygon information that gets sent to the member when we do our processing. It's an actual attachment that came from the person requesting the locate of the buried infrastructure in relation to their excavation. So it could be a photograph. It could be a Google map. It could be anything. So we've been tracking the percentage of attachments for some time now. And I've been planting the seed with my board of directors that we need to move down this path making it mandatory for perhaps our members and then contractors, the digging community, professional digging community, and then the homeowners to include an attachment. And so anyway, just on that, Andrew, where are we at with the attachment percentages?
So for January, Manitoba had 45% of all web tickets with an attachment, and in Alberta, we had 35% of all web tickets that came in with attachments.
Why do you think there's a difference between Alberta and Manitoba like that? Because considering we've been around for 35 years and Manitoba's been around for 4, and I really am enjoying stuff.
You definitely are. Probably because the members attach more in Manitoba than they do in Alberta.
But do you know why?
Project tickets, maybe?
Perhaps.
Perhaps the project tickets?
Maybe it's because also, and that's a bit of an unfair question, but maybe it's because Manitoba started as a click before you dig rather than just call before you dig.
Yeah, exactly.
Culturally, it was already moving that way. And the mobile app, no, we don't have a mobile app in Manitoba, so you can forget that. Yep.
I think, I did a talk on my presentation on technology and the age of technology. And later, of course, it's starts on the likely adoption of the latest technologies.
Yeah. So Dwayne from Pelican was mentioning that they've done some looking into this as well, and the later a contact center comes into being, the more likely they're going to grab the latest technology rather as opposed to going backwards and taking a so that makes sense. Yeah,
The requirement that you start with dial phone.
Yeah, pigeon, smoke signals, and so work your way up.
They still want to do smoke signals.
Yeah, work your way up.
Well, further question on the attachment is, like, obviously having a mechanic to be able to send them is there.
Yes.
In terms of providing like some sort of quality control or guidance to the users, to what this is what is actually usable information at the receiving end. Do you have any
Limitations?
or
Are there any limitations to the attachments?
well, I always think in terms of exceptions, like the best case someone's going to go and come up like a construction map or a photo, like you said. So I wasn't quite sure. It's just basically a mechanic and the receiving end to sort out, well, if that's useful or not.
Okay, good question. I'm not sure if can you guys hear the question? Shall I repeat it?
Please repeat it, Mike.
Please, yeah.
Okay, yep. The question is, in terms of the usability of the attachment, are there any controls that we have? So our agents look at the attachment that's provided by the person requesting to locate and says, you know what, this is really useful, or no, it's not useful at all. And do we have the authority to ignore that attachment or go back and ask for more information?
Yeah, we have the authority to go back and ask for more information as required. A lot of times, homeowners in specific will send through an attachment of a tree in their backyard saying, I'm going to excavate this tree. It doesn't really help us with the location information on the ticket itself. So when we do get information on an attachment that isn't necessarily required, or it's confusing to the agent, or they haven't provided the proper information on the locate ticket itself, we do send that information back to the customer as well, so that they can provide us with the information required.
Good
That would be a challenge if you go down to the entry path, because we're increasing your agent processing time for that TikTok.
It would if we didn't educate first. When we launched the click before you dig, we still obviously had the call, and we did see a dramatic increase in webs. But what we also did, we knew who the heavy users were, and we went out to the heavy users of the system and said, okay, we're going down this path, and we want to do a training session for you. And so that's exactly what happened. Not only did the increase on webs occur, but the integrity didn't decrease. It was maintained and then got better over time. So if we were to mandate attachments, it's not going to be overnight. The board will say, as of January 1st, 2018, perhaps, attachments will be mandatory. Will it be that quick? Probably not. But if it were, then we would begin at least 6 months before doing the same process, going to the heavy users, going to our members, the key ones that are always requesting locates, and training them on how to do this. So we'll see a dramatic increase, and then the low-hanging fruit will have been accomplished. And are we going to reject if it doesn't have an attachment? Well, probably not. But we will choose those opportunities that, okay, this is, you're a contractor, you need to do this, you need to learn this. And there will be a shift within their own organizations of how they procedurally request a locate. When we moved to the web, and we had, Johnny Lunchbucket, Joe Bacco, that was requesting a locate request before by calling it in, and we said, no, we want you to go to the web. We want you to use a mobile application. Well, I don't know how to do that. Well, you need to find a way. So they would go and contact internally, and all locate requests began being completed by somebody in the office. That became their job. So now they got really good at it. And procedurally, they're not wasting time of all these people in the field. It's done by one person, not 24/7, but they could if they needed to. And so the integrity of the entire process escalated. And similarly, I think that would happen with attachments.
So, Mike, do you have white lining in Canada? I don't have regulations or some black lining.
Yeah. So pre-marking basically. Pre-marking. It is in the Alberta CCGA best practices. It's not mandatory, but it is in the best practices, and our mobile application, certainly you can do your virtual white line, if you will. As you saw in the demonstration, you can select your backyard, this is our dig location. So in that sense, you can pre-mark virtually or online, and it's not uncommon, however, if you are driving the streets of Calgary or Edmonton or anywhere Alberta, that you will see white lining is occurring as well. It's a great idea if people do adopt that in terms of pre-marking, because it saves the locator a lot of time.
So therefore the attachment is about helping the locator find the spot.
Yes. Precisely.
That's what's driving this.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yes.
I was thinking before to make the attachment and more infrastructure in place to actually be scanning. I'm always worried about viruses being introduced and disappear. That's something that you also add in your system.
Good question. I'm going to turn this over to somebody in the office. I'm guessing somebody like Joe. The question is, if we're accepting attachments and we're going to be proliferating that, if we're going from 30 to 100%, hopefully, does that also create the situation where we are inviting increased potential for viruses or malware?
No, thankfully, the website's actually, the way Teldig's built it does do filtering related to the type of, obviously we can only accept certain file types and things like that. And then once certain types that obviously are susceptible to viruses, such as PDFs, PNGs, etc., come in, they are virus scanned. The system itself, we don't actually open the files on the computers that the agents are using. They're opened on our server, which is a protected central piece that's basically encapsulated within a couple different firewall pieces. So they're effectively remote viewing those documents and those files. So because the files aren't going to be saved locally or accessed by the local network and are accessed remotely, it adds an extra layer of protection from those kind of vulnerabilities.
Thanks, Joe. That's a question. Good. Yep.
As a business, we've gone through the process of posting everything yourself internally, and then over time, so that's a lot of work. You've got to get it out there.
Yes.
Hosting in different geographically diverse locations. I mean, we've gone down that path. Looks like.
Yeah, I guess we have. Can we do more of that? For sure. Cloud-based technology is there. It's far greater for ourselves, for anybody in our business. In terms of your disaster recovery, you're in a much better position for that. We have migrated some of our contact center to the cloud. That needs to be done 100% in our view. We're not there yet, but and maybe my colleagues in Alberta that know this far better than I do are shaking their heads and saying, "No, Mike, we are there." I have no idea. So if I'm if I'm wrong, feel free to jump in and say you are wrong, Mike. Yeah, no, I am not.
No, you're correct.
Look at that. Wow. I'm probably going to get a text. No, actually, you're wrong. Yeah.
We know not to say you're wrong in public.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Any other questions? One of the things I wanted to mention as well is Alberta One Call. We're very closely linked with the Alberta Common Ground Alliance. The Common Ground Alliance in Canada is perhaps more of a grassroots effort in Canada than it is in the U.S. Not more effective or less effective, but just that's the way it was built. Regional partners emerged across the country in every province, and not at the same time, but over time. And Alberta Common Ground Alliance has always been very closely associated with the advocacy work that we do for Alberta One Call. One of the things I'm really proud of is that my colleagues in Alberta, that presented an opportunity. I mean, as you can see, these are intelligent people. They know their stuff. And that does nobody any good if you leave it in a box and you leave the box covered up and don't tell anybody. It is only beneficial if you open that box and get rid of the box and have these people participate, actively engage in the committee work to make the whole damage prevention process in Alberta better. And that's exactly what we've been able to do. And it's the reward for my colleagues like Amanda Haley and Joe Rosenberg, Craig Tafts, for everybody at the office, is more work. That's the reward, yet they readily accept it because of the pride they have, and they want to share that knowledge. So it's important that the One Call Center be part of that and be able to push that forward. Had it not been for their willingness to do that, we wouldn't be as far ahead as we are from a best practice perspective, from a education and marketing perspective, or definitely not from a dirt perspective. It wasn't long ago. Alberta was not submitting any dirt data. I think it was perhaps 3 or 4 years ago, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, that the total number of damages we reported in 1 year was less than 50. And we did that intentionally. The CCGA did that intentionally. We're going to put that out there. It was almost public shaming that, we need to do better here. And we did. And now, on average, I think, Joe, we're roughly around 3,000 damages have been reported per year, give or take, for the last 3 years.
On average, I'd say we're currently looking at, this year we're at about 3,300. So we're averaging, about 3,000.
Okay. And what's important to note as well, the society, there's cost of repair, and the repairs are, whatever they are, what they are. But the societal cost of that, and you maybe heard me say this before, but we have a societal cost formula that was created by University of McGill in Montreal, and the societal cost of those damages that we're aware of, only 3,300, is about $300 million for Alberta alone. If you look at that across the country, we're looking conservatively at over $1 billion a year. So that's only 10,000 damages that we're aware of. There's far greater than that are occurring. So that's one of the things I want to mention is, our work doesn't just stop at Alberta One Call. We're a nonprofit organization. We receive our revenues from our notifications, and we're always mindful that we don't want to overcharge our members. We don't want to over-notify our members, but that's where we make our revenue. And we aren't always able to do more with more. Sometimes we have to do more with less, and this is one of those years. The Alberta economy is hurting right now, and it's been hurting for a couple of years. It's going to keep hurting for a while. That's our new reality. we're not going to have $120 oil tomorrow or anytime soon, or maybe not for a very, very long time. And that just means that, yeah, we're doing more with less. And maybe someday we'll have to do less with less. But it's really hard to go backwards in terms of what you provide. So we're always looking for better ways to maintain what we're doing and maybe increase what we're doing.
Uh-oh.
But are arguing for the
Hello?
Hello.
We lost
Yes.
you for a second, sorry.
Okay, now I'm here.
You're back.
We're here. I was probably rambling anyway, doesn't matter. I don't think we have it. Can we see everybody else in the, I guess we can see everybody else in the office. We're not looking at that.
Can you guys?
No, you
Oh,
guys
you're
are on
not.
the
We have
phone.
to use the phone.
Yeah.
No,
Have a
I
look
think,
around.
on YouTube we're fine, but on our feed here it's fine. So YouTube we're good.
Here's everyone.
Yeah. Great.
There's Amanda. Oh, she's running away.
I'm running away again.
Hang on.
Hi.
There's Amanda.
There's Joe's hat.
Joe. Leanne's over here. Hello, everyone. Oh.
Hello, everyone.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions or? Yeah.
How do you feel the ambassador program? Great program. I think it's the right way to go, but it doesn't sound like there's been a reduction in damages since the introduction of the program. Would that be fair to say, or am I being?
No, that's absolutely fair. You know, our damages right now in Alberta are 1.6 per thousand notifications, which is low compared to the rest of Canada. It's in the lower area or mid to low. Ontario with legislation is about 0.7 per thousand notifications. Do they have an ambassador program? No, they don't, but they have legislation. The ambassador program, it's an easy way to say, okay, we're going to measure its effectiveness. Did you reduce damages, right? Well, it's one way for sure to look at it, but there are other ways. And last year, the first year we ran the ambassador program was through a pilot. And we had 2 vehicles donated to us. We hired 2 gentlemen to be those ambassadors, and they knew their roles. And it was a 3-day-a-week job. And it remains as a 3-day-a-week job. We went through what we accomplished, what we believe we accomplished. And we also asked the ambassadors, did you happen upon any situation where you know that had you not been there, had you not spoken to that person, they were going to dig without a locate request? And the answer was yes. Now we need to do a better job documenting that because that shows value. Would they have damaged something? Maybe, maybe not. But they changed the behavior. Now that behavior may have led to a damage, may have led to a catastrophic event. We'll never know. But there's also another area of value that we have in the Edmonton area where the locate request process is being abused by some excavators. They're trying to get their locate requests on time, so they're continually requesting locates to the same location. And what that does, it costs our members a lot of money to have to go back out and relocate. Now, if that's what they feel they need to do, so they do. One of our utility owners, over $250,000 in relocates it cost them in 2015. So we had our ambassador go out and speak to we knew who the parties were that were abusing the system, and to speak with them and say, look, what are you doing? There's a process here, and we need to work together. And for a long time, we saw those relocate percentages decrease. Now they've increased again, and we're going to be working on that again. So here is, the ambassador program costs Alberta One Call roughly $50,000 per ambassador in time and resources. This year, a little bit less because the training isn't required. That was all onboarding. But the fact of the matter is, there are more ways to measure its effectiveness beyond damages. There are benefits beyond what the data might suggest. And that is a very tough thing to show. Looking back into my career when I was with the National Energy Board, part of my job was to audit pipeline companies, public awareness programs, education programs, and assess the effectiveness of those programs. Here I am 25 years later, and that formula still doesn't exist. It's almost impossible to find it. That said, one of our members, ATCO Gas, I have a meeting with them coming up soon because they have something they want to show me to that effect. And that's where I think if they have something that we can work with, that's where we'll go. But as I mentioned earlier, if we took away all of our advertising and awareness campaign, all of it, the radio, television, everything, and remove the ambassador program, would we see those damage ratio increase? We might not. We might see it go down. There's so many variables.
So I guess if you go out and do a promotional activity about reporting damages more, the results going to look like you get more damages.
Possibly.
You do get more damages.
That's right.
It's still like you started with, there's still going to be a lot of people not reporting.
Yep. Well, and it's a good point because if you take all the programs you're doing, whether there's ambassadorship, education, awareness, reporting damages, and you had them all start the same day, and that's your starting line, and they all went forward, well, then you have reliable data. But we didn't all start the same day. These programs didn't all start at the same time, and it's really difficult to tell which one of those programs or which one of those areas of cost is reducing the damage and having the most effect. It's really difficult to say.
Some different question, maybe not Alberta One Call, but probably more broader industry, or even North America in general. Has there been any push from the facility owners to move the burden or the cost of the locate request to the person who's actually exposing the asset?
Yep. So the question is, just so you know, the question in the office, and it gives me a little more time to think of an answer. And I do have an answer. Just kidding. The question is, the people in the room, by the way, are from Australia. Has there been any discussion from industry to move the locating and marking to the party that's excavating? So that cost to the excavator.
Maybe the facility owner is still doing.
Yes,
okay.
But they charge for it.
Yeah.
Yep. And there has there been a specific discussion on that I'm aware of? Not that I'm aware of. Is industry looking for a better way? All the time. Absolutely all the time.
You have legislation in the USA, 77, actually mandating utilities must
The only legislation that says that in Canada. Yeah, the only legislation that even comes close doesn't actually say that, but it says that like National Energy Board regulations, damage prevention regulations, do say that the facilities must be marked and located, and AER, the Alberta Energy Regulator, says they must be located and marked. Doesn't say by who. No, it doesn't say by who. Because there is an opportunity right now that's all contracted out to a contract locator. I think the appetite for what takes place in Australia is potentially growing. And if you look what happened in Ontario, and the first province to bring in legislation, and hats off, we all want to go there. In Canada, every province wants to go there. But if you look at what happened there, the ability to stay ahead of the locate process and marking process is a challenging one. And everybody knew it would be, even in Alberta, where we don't have the legislation. It is an enormous challenge to stay ahead of that for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to go into them, but it is a very big challenge. When a person's going to be putting in something as simple as a fence or whatever it might be, and they make that locate request, their expectation is that I'm going to be able to start in a few days. And when that doesn't happen, and they're a responsible person, they're not going to dig until it's time. In some cases, that can be weeks later. And that's not right. It's not right. And I think industry, Alberta Common Ground Alliance, the Alberta One Call needs to find a way. And that is one option.
I'm not saying it's the best option, because I think my own perspective, I'm not sure we have it right, because I have a suspicion that the culture it drives is the avoidance of the cost, and therefore the avoidance of the locate. So there's elements where I can see, I'm not sure we've got a perfect system in either jurisdiction at this stage. Because I'm inclined to say, right, well, I'd rather somebody bear the cost of locating the asset, and at least you know it's located, rather than somebody just digging without needing location.
Yeah. Well, I think I know I can speak for all my members that nobody wants. I mean, the fact that they're registered with Alberta One Call, nobody wants to have their facilities damaged. Nobody. For all the right reasons. Yet we have to look at what's reasonable. Not just from the utility side, the person excavating, and from the people who might be affected by it. What's reasonable? And whatever is reasonable is where you land. And if that's where you land, then you got to find a way to make that work.
I think the opportunity and challenge is for us to find that middle ground and come up with a good plan.
Perhaps. Well, nothing stays the same forever, right? Nothing stays the same forever. And if the current statistics tell us that 1.6 damages per 1,000 notifications is acceptable or reasonable, well, then things may not change. But if it's not acceptable, and I don't think it is, then you got to keep finding a better way. You know, we brought into Ontario brought in alternative locate agreements a number of years ago, and in terms of reducing damages, nothing did a better job than that. Where they actually, the contractor, the person who's digging, pays for this, but they've already been screened, if you will, into that ALA, alternative locate agreement process, and that requires that a hydrovac come out at daylight where they're going to be doing the work. Well, now the opportunity for damage is dramatically. I mean, you see it. How can you actually damage this unless it was damaged through the hydrovac? So,
Oh no, I don't want to.
yeah. So
use that a lot, don't they?
yeah, I mean, you can damage it for sure. You know, through the nozzle or whatever. It could be a damaged facility already. You could damage the wrap, the tape coat wrap. I mean, there's other things you can do, but the statistics of damage have plummeted because of that. And the excavator pays.
And that's nice. It's a guy that excavates on the site. Like them to wait for 2 days or 3 days or whatever it might take. They can onboard my staff.
That's right.
Just being cautious. I can get over for a crew going.
Yeah.
Examples of guys and crews sitting around waiting for locates.
But it also includes a pre-screening approval. And you know, the idea of ALAs was brought to Alberta a couple of years ago, and it's been going back and forth for a while. But I received an email just yesterday saying, let's talk about this again from one of our members. And I think it's the right thing to do. The data that we've seen from Ontario, it proves it's a good service. It's a great option. I think so. I think so. You know, if the excavator, if they're going to be sitting around with all this yellow equipment, paying for that, waiting for a locate, a conventional locate, or they could pay a lot less for a hydrovac to come out and locate in a day, you know what they're going to choose.
I think the other challenge we face though is generating the turnover to reduce the overall cost of a locate. So I've been hearing numbers of $6 to $25 US dollars for a locate. You know, you're talking $185 Australian per hour for a locate. That's assuming that. So if the cost challenge for us in order to create the imperative to locate every time is different.
Yeah.
That kind of differential. It's purely economies of scale. Maybe you're having that mandatory drive all of a sudden.
We basically need Mexico sending stuff on us.
So I'm going to
say that blank, but
So
2:20 now, and if there's any last questions, I had some really good discussion, and I want to thank everybody in Alberta for doing what you did today. We should really do this more often, right?
Yes. Once a week at least, Mike.
At least once a week. Maybe we'll start working this way all the time. No, thanks very much. I knew I could count on everybody there.
Mike, on behalf of us, we thank you on seeing you.
No, thank you. Yep. They all thank you as well. Let me just see if I can just turn this around here. Where is it? There we go.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Fantastic.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you on Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, we gotta. How do you shut her down? Are you shutting her down?
And how did we do?
We did awesome. I think we did really well. Matt, shut her down.
Is there like a stop stream?
Stop stream? Stop stream. Abort. Everyone's leaving the table.